Handoff Adrian up the middle, room to the 20, cuts to the left to the 25, and Adrian's loose! He splits the defense! 50, 40, 30, goodbye, baby! Touchdown!
We bleed purple, and our bones are gold. Hear the horns coming out of our dome, behold. We are Minnesota Vikings fans. We love when a player scores, we roar, ignite the stands. We bleed purple, and our bones are gold. We're the kings of the north, our slogan skull.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Purple People podcast. My name is Kyle West. Alongside me, he is the Superman to my General Zod. His name is Adam Carlson. Kneel before Carlson.
I'd like to think of myself more as like the Robin to your Batman.
I don't know.
Right?
I really just wanted to work in a General Zod reference. That's been on like my bucket list of things that I've wanted to do, and I finally did it.
Well, anyway, I'd like to welcome everyone to the Purple People podcast. This is episode number 55, and I have it titled 53's Company.
Ah, that's excellent, and that fits so well with what we were planning on doing today, because we are doing a mock 53-man roster for the Minnesota Vikings.
That, and I love the show Three's Company.
I do too. It is really funny.
I don't know what it is, but that show always made me laugh. But before we jump into the 53-man roster mock, we are going to have a question from social media.
We have a lovely question from social media this week, although they are all lovely, and we thank you, each and every one of you, for sending them in.
They are all lovely in their own way.
I don't know what that was about. It's been a long day. This one comes from our Facebook group. Maxwell Weiss wants to know who is going to be our will linebacker, and is Sharif Floyd going to start on the D-line? And Adam, you did such a grand job of explaining to me the will linebacker. I think you should, for all our listeners out there, explain that one too.
It's just another term for the weak side linebacker, especially in a 4-3.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know why they call it a will, but I think they just went W, weak side, W, will, but hey, I guess. Last year, Aaron Henderson was our weak side linebacker, and he could be again this year if the Vikings choose to go a different route at middle linebacker, if Aaron Henderson doesn't win that job for the starting middle linebacker. But if Aaron Henderson does win that, I think we'll see a guy like Greg Hodges stepping in. Although he's a rookie, I think that he's got a tremendous upside, and I'm excited to see what he can do. So it's going to be either Henderson or Hodges, in my opinion.
Yeah, Hodges would be cool. Henderson, if they go out and sign Desmond Bishop, which is a name a lot of people are throwing around right now. Or, I don't know. I'm not that big of a scout or a coach to be able to fill in positions like that, which is interesting to say before we do a mock 53, but that's beside the point.
That's going to make it fun, though, right?
Yeah, exactly. So maybe it'll be Audie Cole. I don't know. They'll get someone. They'll get someone out there. They'll fill it. I'm not as worried about the linebacker spot as what a lot of other people are.
And then for the Sharif Floyd thing, I think that we'll see Sharif Floyd come in rotating, and we'll see him covering for Kevin Williams, learning behind him. We'll see him coming in on nose sometimes in passing downs and situations like that. We won't have to see Everson Griffin go in there. He can stick to more being a defensive end rather than a defensive tackle on passing downs.
Mm-hmm.
He's going to allow a lot of versatility for that defensive line, which is really interesting and fun to see because they already have another guy in Griffin that can do multiple spots. So it's going to be nice to see what he can do and what he'll bring to the team.
Sharif is going to be fun. I'm excited to see precisely what they're going to do with him. I agree with Adam. It's going to be rotation behind Kevin Williams is where he's going to start. But it's very quickly, I think, going to turn into this guy is too good to be on the bench a lot of times. So he's going to work his way on the field more often than not. I believe that to be true.
Definitely could be the case.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so let's move into our 53-man roster mock. I don't know what word I was going to say there. I'm glad I stopped myself. But let's jump right into the offense.
Well, hold on.
I love offense.
I do love. Everyone loves good offense. Before we dive headfirst into our 53-man, I just wanted to point out that before we started recording the show, we were both talking, me and Adam, about how I could sit down and do a bunch of changes to my list.
Oh, absolutely.
I know I could do that. I know Adam could do that. And this is not what we were predicting so much to be week one. These are the guys that are going to be on the roster. This is kind of like our first stab of just throwing it out there for players that we think are going to make the team and what we think early predictions. We're going to do probably a couple more of these as we get into training camp, and we'll do like a final 53 before the season actually starts. But this is like our early stab at what we think.
All right, so let's start out with quarterbacks. And how many quarterbacks did you bring?
Well, I got three quarterbacks.
I heavily debated bringing 2, but I don't think the Vikings would leave McLeod Bethel-Thompson out and let him be picked up by another team. I think they really like him.
No.
So I think we're going to see all 3 quarterbacks return, and that's Ponder, Matt Castle, and McLeod Bethel-Thompson.
Ponder, Castle, MBT, because I firmly believe that they hope that MBT will show enough promise throughout training camp and preseason that they will feel comfortable with him being their number 2 next year behind Christian Ponder.
Definitely.
I hope so too. I'm a really big fan of McLeod Bethel-Thompson, and if I can find a way to get his jersey, I'll be damned if I won't be wearing one.
You have to make the text smaller in the back, though, so it fits all the way across.
Yeah, you can't customize one on NFL Shop because it has too many letters.
Gotta love that.
Yeah. I know because I've tried, ladies and gentlemen. I've tried to make a McLeod Bethel-Thompson jersey.
I tried to write some really terrible things on the back, and it always says text not prohibited, so... But that's just me.
Yeah. Okay, let's move on to our running backs. This is another one that's pretty easy to figure out what the team's going to be doing. Peterson, Gerhardt, Asiata.
See, I have them divided up as running backs, Peterson and Gerhardt.
Mm-hmm.
Then I have fullbacks, Felton and Asiata.
Oh, okay. Well, I guess I kept Asiata as a running back, but yeah, if he sees the field, it'd be more as a fullback. But yeah, I see where you went with that.
So how many fullbacks did you have?
Well, then I got one. I got Felton listed as the fullback. So.
All right. So far we are matching completely.
Yep. Which, to be fair, for quarterbacks and running backs, the depth chart is pretty set.
I don't know. I debated for a while bringing a third running back, but with Asiata being able to fill that.
The thing about Asiata is...
And he's a good special teamer.
Exactly. He's a really good special teams guy. He laid out some really heavy hits for a running back / fullback last year on special teams, and I like him quite a bit in that role with the Vikings.
All right, next we'll hop into wide receivers. I brought 6.
Hey, I brought 6 wide receivers too.
Now, I should have only taken 5 because that might be all they bring, but for some reason, I just couldn't leave this guy out. I just couldn't do it.
Okay.
All right, so I'm gonna run down my list.
Hold on a minute. Let's pause for a minute here. By the way, me and Adam don't know what each other's mocks look like, so This is kind of like a surprise for the both of us to see what we're doing. So it's interesting to me when we both keep the same number of players at positions like wide receiver, where you could have went a couple of ways with this one.
Right.
Yeah.
All right, I'm going to run down my list, and you run down yours, and we'll talk about the difference.
Okay.
I have Greg Jennings, Cordero Patterson, Jarius Wright, Jerome Simpson, Joe Webb, and Greg Childs.
Oh, okay. I see what you did there, Mr. Carlson. I also have 6 wide receivers on the team, and like you, I could have went with 5, but the reason why I went with 6 is there is that chance, I don't even like to say it out loud, maybe Greg Jennings gets hurt. I think you want to keep an extra player on the team just in case that happens. So that's why I went with 6.
My major thing for it was I wanted Joe Webb there to return punts.
Okay.
And since he can play wide receiver too, I kind of thought,
that's a good... Yeah, yeah. Okay. Well, my 6, I went with Greg Jennings, Randy Moss, Terrell. No, I'm kidding. None of those guys are on the team. Greg Jennings, Cordarrelle Patterson, Jarius Wright, Jerome Simpson, Joe Webb, and for the final year, if you don't do anything for the team, Stephen Burton.
All right, I can see that.
Yeah.
I don't
And
know, I just really love what Child is doing right now. Sounds like he's working really hard to come back. He's cutting, he's running routes. If nothing, maybe I just put him there because I want it so bad. I want him to succeed. But I really think he can do it.
I'm going to get to Greg Childs a little bit later on. I I'm 100% with you, Adam. Here's a guy that I'm rooting for. I really want him to make the team because he has worked so incredibly hard to come back from these injuries. He seems like a good guy, and he's just the kind of player that you root for and you want him to make the team. I
Right.
don't think, given the nature of his injury, even though he's worked as hard as what he's worked, that he'll be quite ready to be on the active roster this season. I kept Joe Webb as a receiver because he's not costing the Vikings anything to be on the team. He's a darn good athlete, and you can keep him at receiver, but what if you wanted to do some kind of trick things with him? Maybe he can fill in that role. And Stephen Burton, boy, I went back and forth. His name was on and off my list a couple of times. Ultimately, it came down to an article I read on Vikings.com where they said that he's been looking really good in training camp, OTAs so far, which has kind of been the story of his career. But he's a good down-the-field blocker. So I think that kind of will be important to the team doing what we do in the run game, to have Steven who can go out there and he can block down the field. So that's why I went with him.
Absolutely, and I could see that happening too.
Yep.
Especially if Greg Childs can't stay healthy and ends up on IR or something like that.
Yeah.
Well, the next grouping should be easy.
Tight ends?
Yep, I have 3.
Yep, I have 3 also.
And we have the same 3, so go ahead and name them off. I'm just assuming we do.
Kyle Rudolph, John Carlson, Red Ellison. That's not changing one bit.
No, I don't see that changing up.
I don't even know how much we want to talk about tight ends. Kyle Rudolph is going to see an increased workload. We're seeing good things from a healthy John Carlson. If you guys haven't, go to Vikings.com and look at a couple of the catches that he's made. So fingers crossed, and we both love Red Ellison and what he can do for the team. So,
and if you're a fantasy football fan, I suggest you go over to NFL.com and check out their fantasy football bust lists.
Mm-hmm.
Because in the top 10 are both Greg Jennings and Kyle Rudolph.
Really? Well, who gives a shit about fantasy football? Because Kyle Rudolph is going to do amazing things for the Vikings this year.
Now, this one was tricky. The offensive line.
Okay.
I brought 8.
I brought 7, but... Well, how did you include your centers with your linemen?
Absolutely.
Okay. I separated my centers from my linemen, but one of those guys you'll see in a minute can kind of play both spots on the team if needed. So that's where I went. Why don't you go ahead
and lead this one off?
No, you can go ahead and you can do yours first. I'm curious.
All right. I've got my starters. I got Khalil, I got Charlie Johnson, I got John Sullivan, Brandon Fusco, Bill Lodeholt. Then I got my 3 alternates. I've got Joe Berger. He can play center. He can play guard.
Yep.
I've got Jeff Backa, who can play either side at guard.
Uh-huh.
And then I've got the guy that I'm kind of pushing for, too. Travis Bond at swing tackle. I would love to see him be able to pull that off. If he can't, we're going to see a guy like DeMarcus Love. But for now, I'm putting my money down on Travis Bond.
Okay. I split mine up into the center position, which I got John Sullivan, and then I got Joe Berger. who is someone that he can play center, which is important because Sullivan is a little banged up at the moment, so you need Berger who can step in and do center if needed. And then he's also a guy who you can put on the line as a guard. So he's got that versatility that I like. For my linemen, I've got Matt Khalil, Phil Lodeholt. Come on, guys, those are a gimme.
Yep.
Charlie Johnson, and then I got who I like more than what Adam likes. I was surprised that you had Charlie on the roster, by the way.
Oh, I gotta be realistic with it. They like him.
Yeah.
He's a veteran.
I didn't think you were gonna include him on your 53. I really didn't. And then I got Jeff Baca, Travis Bond, and DeMarcus Love.
Yeah, Love is one of those guys that wouldn't make sense.
Mm-hmm. Now,
Because if Phil Lodeholt goes down, that right tackle position would have to be filled by someone. Last year it would have been Jeff Schwartz, but Jeff Schwartz has moved on.
mm-hmm.
He's not dead. He just plays for a different NFL.
Well, he plays for the Kansas City Chiefs. That's kind of like dying.
But I am really putting my money down on Travis Bond being able to cover that. A guy like Love might be able to come in and do it. If Matt Khalil goes down, I hope it never happens.
Mm-hmm.
Charlie Johnson will have to step in at left tackle. And then they could swing in Berger or Baca on the guard position, but I don't know. To me, right now, the depth at O-line I don't like, but they've got a lot of strength. The starters returning all their guys.
They do. Baca and Bond were both guys that we drafted later on, and maybe they were ones that you could potentially say they've moved to practice squad, but I think both of them would be better suited for the active roster for the reasons that you stated. I think Jeff Baca has a better chance of being a better player earlier on than what Travis Bond does.
Right.
Bond is a
Especially
guy...
considering Bond trying to learn the tackle positions.
Yeah, Bond, he's a great, big, huge mountain of a guy.
Oh, yeah.
Funnier than heck, too, but that's beside the point. His footwork kind of scares me to death. Like, he's got to learn the fundamentals of the position, which is why you could maybe say that he could be a practice squad guy, but
right.
I think he will be on the final 53. I noticed that we both left Brandon Fusco off the roster.
No, I didn't.
You didn't?
No.
Really? I didn't think you had him. Well, I didn't have him on mine.
Why?
I don't know. I have him in parentheses, so he was a guy that I was kind of on again, off again on my roster. But no, I ultimately didn't put him on this first 53.
Interesting.
Yeah.
All right, that's one of the few interesting calls there in the first round of our 53-man mock. So that was the offense. Now let's move on to the defense. I think we're going to get a couple more surprises here, hopefully.
I think so, too, especially when we get down to linebackers and corners.
All right, defensive end. I have 5.
I got 4.
All right, the reason I went with 5 is because I have Jared Allen, Brian Robinson, Everson Griffin. Those 3 are solid. They're not going anywhere.
Mm-hmm.
Then I've got George Johnson and Lawrence Jackson because both those guys are good players to bring in on special teams. And I think they're both guys that could play in place of an injured player pretty easily. Not that I'd expect 2 injured defensive ends, but I also expect Minnesota to rotate their defensive ends more this year. So
okay.
It'll be nice to have the depth, and it'll be nice to have the extra bodies on special teams.
Totally. I went with 4 because I feel pretty safe with the top 3, obviously. And then the other spot I'll get to here in a second. We know Jared Allen, Brian Robinson, Everson Griffin. Okay,
right.
Those are the 3 gimmies. And then for my number 4, for right now, because this is just the initial, I went with DeAndre Reed because I don't quite know enough about the other ends on the roster to give him the benefit of the doubt over top of him. We'll see what happens with the rest of OTAs and training camp. And then when we do the next 53, I'll probably be able to round out that number 4 position a little bit better. Right now, I went with DeAndre because I think that's someone that if you had to play a game tomorrow, the Vikings would be the most comfortable with him with that 4th spot.
Right, they're going to see in camp what they actually have in George Johnson and Lawrence Jackson. So
Which is a spot that I'm interested in watching as well too, because next year this is a spot that could potentially look drastically different on the squad,
absolutely,
depending what happens with Allen, Robinson, and Griffin's contracts for the team.
yes.
Yep.
But we're also going to have a similar situation at defensive tackle with Kevin Williams
Mhm.
and Fred Evans,
Mhm.
which I have Williams and Evans as two of my defensive tackles, along with Sharif Floyd and Latroy Guion.
Okay, how many do you got total? 4?
Just those four.
Just those 4? I got 4. My 4 is a little bit different. I went with Kevin Williams, Sharif Floyd, Fred Evans, and Christian Ballard.
Ooh,
I'm still gonna ride the Christian Ballard thing.
Ballard over Guion, huh?
I am gonna go with that one until it goes nose first into the ground.
Interesting pick.
I have to. Okay, I can explain Ballard. I'm an Iowa Hawkeye fan. I watched the guy play in college. I watched him be a dominant force for the Hawkeyes, and I have not seen it so far for the Vikings, but I still believe that he's going to get it together and he's going to show it. Now, his time is running short. His fuse is shorter than short right now, folks. If he doesn't show it, he could get beat out and not be on this roster, but I really want him to make it.
I have him getting beat out and not on the roster.
Yeah. To be realistic, I could see that happening, but he's on mine because I want to see him make this team and do good and be the player that I seen him play in college.
Now, I will guarantee you that you and I have different picks at linebackers because we talked about this at the beginning of the show.
Oh yeah, I know our linebackers are going to be, other than 3 or 4 of them, probably completely different.
I have, of course, Chad Greenway, Aaron Henderson, Gerald Hodges. But then I added in Tyrone McKenzie, Audie Cole, Marvin Mitchell, and Desmond Bishop. 7 linebackers.
I see, says the blind man. I have 6 on mine, but go ahead and explain your 7.
The thing about linebackers that's great is all of these guys are core special teams guys. You've seen McKenzie and Mitchell and Cole out there on special teams. You've got Hodges, their 4th round pick. They're not going to let him go. And if they put him on the practice squad, someone will take him.
Mm-hmm.
And then you got Greenway and Henderson. And Bishop, the Vikings are bringing in for a workout. This is one of my quick hits later. So I won't spoil too much about that. But the Vikings will most likely sign him and bring him in to be the starting middle linebacker.
Okay. I have 6 linebackers, and when I put together my 6, this was tough. This was probably the toughest spot on the team that I had trying to figure out what they're going to do. With that said, I think there's actually more talent on this roster at that position overall than what people want to give credit for. The problem is that there's not people that jump out immediately and you go, oh, well, that guy is our middle linebacker. I can figure that out, no problem. That's what we lack right now. It's just where are these guys precisely gonna fall when training camp is over and we're ready for regular season to start. I went with Chad Greenway, Aaron Henderson, Audie Cole. Those 3 are your given guys to be on the roster.
Okay.
Marvin Mitchell,
okay,
Michael Motti, and Gerald Hodges round out my other 3 that I kept.
Interesting. No Tyrone McKenzie.
No Tyrone McKenzie. Michael Motti, I think, has really good upside, and he will do, if he comes back from his injury, good things for this team. Gerald Hodges, like you said, if you try to slide him on the practice squad, someone else is going to pick him up. And then Marvin Mitchell is a great core special teams guy that I like him at that position, and I like him in rotational, kind of backup guy to get on the field. Good talent. So, but like I said, I had probably the most problems putting together my linebackers out of all the positions on the team.
It took me a while to figure out what to do with Michael Mauti, but I ended up putting him on my IR list.
You're going
'Cause
IR with
I'm
Michael
not sure
Mauti?
if he's going to be ready.
Yeah, I could see that. That's
And there's another guy that I was struggling deciding whether or not to put on the IR list, and he's coming up in the next group.
mm-hmm.
And that's our corners. I have
Cornerbacks.
6 corners.
I have 6 too.
I got Chris Cook. I got Xavier Rhodes, Josh Robinson, AJ Jefferson. This was my question mark with Jacob Lacey, but I think he'll be healthy enough to play.
Mm-hmm.
At my 6th corner, this is a little bit of a surpriser here, is Bobby Felder.
Oh, you went with Bobby Felder. Okay, I have him on my practice squad. That is, except for one player, that is identical to the corners that I picked as well.
Let me guess, you don't have Felder.
No, I said he went on my practice squad.
All right, so who do you got in place of him?
I got Chris Cook, Xavier Rhodes. I decided, by the way, that he needs a nickname. Like, we need something to call him here at the podcast. And Xavier.
No,
Charles.
Xavier.
I know, but look at how it's spelled. Charles Xavier. Oh, that's right. Professor X from the X-Men. So,
No. Come on, he grew up being a huge wrestling fan. Nothing, you got to call him Dusty.
oh, Dusty Rhodes. No way. I'm calling him either X-Man or Professor X. So that's what I'm calling him with. Just,
Terrible.
oh, boo. Boo you.
Boo you.
Boo you. AJ Jefferson, Josh Robinson, Jacob Lacey, and then Marcus Sherrills, because someone has to return punts for this team. And Marcus Sherrills does an admirable job at that, and for whatever reason, Coach Leslie Frazier seems to like the guy, so I think he'll still be on the team.
I don't know, I think they like Joe Webb more.
Guys, I don't see. I must called you Guy for some reason. I don't know. I don't see Joe Webb returning punts on a regular basis for
Webb.
the team.
Spider-Man.
No, Spider-Man will not be returning punts.
And then to finish up the regular team and without the special teams, we have the safeties. I have 4 safeties, and they are the standard Harrison Smith, Mistral Raymond, Jamarcus Sanford, and Andrew Sendejo.
We slightly differ on this. I went with 5. I went with Harrison, Jamarca, Mistral Raymond, Robert Blanton, and Anderson. I can never pronounce his last name.
Sendejo.
Andrew Sendejo. That was
See,
my 5.
I really like Blanton.
Mhm.
I do. And he's one of those players that I would love to see step up and do something great. But every time I get excited about him, he lets me down.
Yeah. I kept him because I'm still not 100% sold on Jamarcus Sanford as like a long-term solution for Minnesota at the safety spot. So I'm like, God, I'm going to go with 5, and I'm going to throw Robert in the mix just to see what happens with him. So that's why he's on my roster.
And then we should both have the 3-man special teams of
Kicker,
Blair
punter, long
Jeff-
snapper. This is pretty easy. Walsh, Locke, Loeffler. That's
What was that punter's name again?
Chris Cluey.
No.
Warcraft. I don't
Lock it up.
No. That's the one time I'm saying his name, and then that's it.
Lock it up.
No, Locke. No.
And then we got our practice squad guys.
Yeah, do we even care? I was gonna read what the rules are for being eligible for the practice squad, but do you want me to? Basically, guys, it's rookies who are cut in training camp, and you can't have played on a regular season roster for whatever. Look it up on Wikipedia if you are that interested in the practice squad.
Now you're allowed to take 8 guys. I have nose tackle Anthony McLeod, wide receiver Rodney Smith. I really like Rodney Smith, but I don't think he's quite ready. Defensive tackle Everett Dawkins.
Good God, yeah.
Cornerback Rod Williams. I got Michael Mauti on there.
Mm-hmm.
I've got Brandon Bishop at free safety, Zach Line, the fullback, and Gerodis Williams, the running back.
Okay. That is an admirable practice squad. I got to admit here, other than a couple of people, I was like, I have no clue who's going to be the practice squad guys. Really, we're doing a mock practice squad.
We'll learn a lot more about these guys as the preseason goes on.
Yes. So I'm just gonna. I don't even have a full 8. I've got just a couple here that are like, okay, these are the guys that I like that I would put.
Yeah, give us a handful here.
Yeah, Greg Childs. I don't think that he's quite ready to make the active roster. I think he would benefit more, and it's gotta suck for the guy to hear this if he happens to be listening, but I think he would benefit more from having another year to rehab and get his legs under him and run routes on the sidelines and do whatever practice squad guys do, carrying around a water bottle to Adrian Peterson, whatever. I think Greg would benefit more from that than being on the active roster. And then I think he can make a stronger push in 2014 for being on the active unit. From there, I went with Rodney Smith, who was another receiver that Adam Carlson, you sold me on Rodney Smith.
Big fan.
I love this guy's upside. Don't quite think he's ready, but
Right.
he could be a training camp shocker. Oh, excuse me.
It's true. We
Every,
saw that happen with Victor Cruz in New York.
yeah, every year you've got one or two guys who come out of nowhere and they surprise you and look way better than what they should. Rodney Smith could be that guy, so pay attention to him. Everett Dawkins, he was our. We drafted him. I don't quite think he's ready to make the active unit, so I got him on practice squad. And then Anthony McLeod was another guy that me and Adam agreed with. Otherwise, Chase Baker, I threw him out on there, and Bobby Felder. Those are kind of the guys that I got.
Okay. Yeah, I can definitely see that.
Mhm.
That was an interesting breakdown. We got to learn a lot about what we think about some of the players. Who do you think that we left off or snubbed? Leave us a message on social media. I am on Facebook, and of course, Kyle's our Twitter guy.
Oh, you betcha. The Twitter Meister.
All right, let's take a quick rundown the quick hits, and then we will call her a day.
Okie dokie.
Of course, number 1 is Chris Childs. Not Chris Childs, Greg Childs. Who's Chris Childs?
I'm like, who's Chris Childs?
I'll have to Google that to see if that's somebody. I don't know. But Greg Childs was bulked up, and he's looking good, cutting, running routes, and jumping on repaired knees. Word is that he might be cleared for action come minicamp, which means that he could be one of those guys to sneak on the roster, I think.
I am excited about what he can do, like we said, and we'll see. High hopes for him.
Number 2, former Viking Kenichi Odeze will be doing a coaching internship with the team through the first 2 preseason games.
Was he the guy that got hurt? Had some weird... What was his...
I believe he was the gentleman that has leukemia.
I'm pretty sure he's the same one I'm thinking of. But yeah, he's the guy who unfortunately had leukemia or whatever. But it's really cool to see him back coaching and the Vikings to give him the opportunity to do so.
Number 3, Chad Greenway had his knee scoped and cleaned for debris, but he should be fine for training camp. Number 4, several Vikings, including Adrian Peterson, showed off their golf skills at the Vikings Children's Fund golf outing for charity.
Can we talk for a minute about the pants that, oh my god, I'm blank, I can't even think. Greg Jennings, the pants that Greg Jennings was wearing, because legitimately I've got tweets about those pants.
Go ahead, go ahead and have her.
If you guys want to look at the images of those, we will post one here at the podcast. They were like white with paint splatters all over them, and apparently people have real strong opinions about the golf pants that he wears. I thought it was funny. It's golf. It doesn't really matter that much, ladies and gentlemen. And let's be done talking about his pants.
All right.
Okay.
Number 5, John Sullivan is still not ready to return to action after his microfracture surgery. The team's a little worried about his mentality going forward.
Really? Well, that's why you've got to have good depth behind him at center and O-line. I think he'll be fine. That's my...
He should be. If not, they got plenty of guys that can play center. Fusco can step in. Berger can step in.
Matt
They've
Burke
got
is
guys that can
retired.
do the job.
Maybe they can call Matt Burke back.
Number 6, rookie defensive tackle Everett Dawkins had his 23rd birthday on Thursday. Happy birthday to the rookie.
Happy birthday, Everett. I hope you listen to the show. We will have to tweet him. Is he on Twitter? I don't know.
Oh, of course.
We'll tweet him and tell him, listen to the show. We wished you a happy birthday. It's only about 40 minutes into it.
Number 7, defensive end Jared Allen will miss mandatory camp this week while he continues to heal his shoulder after surgery.
That's the MO for Jared Allen. He doesn't like training camp or OTAs, or he's very upfront about that. So no, I'm not surprised. Yes, he will be here when the season starts.
Number 8, and this is the one that we've been getting the tweets and the messages on Facebook and all that about. Middle linebacker Desmond Bishop has scheduled a Vikings visit this week. He was released by the Packers today, which is Monday.
He is apparently the savior of our offense, or excuse me, of our defense.
If he can stay healthy, he should be able to step in and play middle linebacker in this offense, or in this defense, sorry.
We'll see. I think expectations should be kept realistic here, and remember that we are talking about a player who was released from another team. So,
do you know the reasons why, though? I mean, you read the article.
I have, but it still comes down to they released him.
The VikingAge.com article by Adam Carlson.
You wrote a good article there, Adam, and I agree, but like I said, perspective here. I mean, it's not like he's going to step in and, like, people are acting like it's a Hall of Fame player that just got released, and he's
a solid established player at a position that the Vikings have a question mark at, so it's something to be excited about the Vikings bringing him in for a visit.
It is, but we'll see what happens with it.
And number 9, this is we're going to toot our own horn quick hit. We are now available on FeedBurner, iTunes, Stitcher, Podomatic, and YouTube. There's no excuse for you guys not to track us down and give us a listen, unless you think we were awful, and then you should listen to us anyway just so our numbers look better.
Mm-hmm. Which there are people who think we're awful, and I just...
Oh, sure.
I laugh at those people.
I've gotten called an idiot. That's fine. I don't mind being an idiot.
You've told me I've been called an idiot, and I'm like, I don't care. Whatever, you can call me an idiot. We're the ones that do the show week in and week out, every single week. I said week.
For over a year now.
I said week a lot in that statement.
Yeah, that sentence was weak.
Yeah, but yeah. So every now and then, stupid things get said, and no, we're not professional scouts or coaches or whatever. So we hope that the bulk of you enjoy our stupid statements from time to time.
And by the way, never tell anybody they're saying a little bit of Total Eclipse of the Heart on the show, because I'll never get past that. But I'd like to thank everyone for listening, and remember to check us out on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter. Yeah, send Kyle some messages on Twitter. I think Kyle's getting lonely on there.
I have been taking a little bit of a Twitter break, but I will be back in once we get closer to the start of training camp and stuff.
But I'd just like to remind you all to stay classy, Minnesota.
We bleed purple and our bones are gold. Hear the horns coming out of our dome, behold. We are Minnesota Vikings fans. We love when a player scores, we roar, ignite the stands. We bleed purple and our bones are gold. We're the kings of the north, our slogan skull. No Packer, no bear, no lion can beat us. We will punish anyone if they try to defeat us. He's the MVP, appreciated greatly. Running all day, 2K, that's AP. Make a defense cry, or maybe beg. ACL stands for Adrian's crazy leg. He's the heart of the team, 28, holding up that Lombardi is a part of the dream. We will never give up, we find the faith to move past 09 and 98.